All right, I'm going to show you how to do checkpoint 3 of our Gorongosa project here. As always, don't forget to read the summary up here before you turn in anything. There's 2 things you must complete. One says answer the 3 questions in the modeling box and put a picture of your food chain here, which we'll discuss in a minute, and complete the ecological disruptions box as well. So as always, above the boxes like this modeling box where we do the work, it tells us what we're going to do. This just says you should have done checkpoint 1 already, so if you haven't, go back and do that. But what you need to do, it says, is answer the first 3 questions and insert a correctly labeled picture of a food chain, which we will show you how to do in a minute. If you don't remember how to do food chains or food webs, you will probably need to make an appointment for one of my workshops and my office hours, so make sure you email me so you can set that up. So in our modeling box, it says separate your cards. Well, if we're doing this as makeup at home or online, I'll show you where to find these cards. You won't be able to physically separate them in the piles, but you will be able to still count them up. So in the cards they're talking about, if we're in class and you're doing it makeup with me, I'll pass out the cards to you. But if not, you're going to have to check out in checkpoint 3 under the resources for everyone here. It says organisms in ecological disturbance cards. So if I click on those, it'll pop up with, like, here's an elephant card, and it tells you about its habitat, diet, predators, and social groups, and has a picture. So it has a bunch of different animals, and it has some plants eventually. There we go, tall grass, short grass. And then at the bottom, it has something we'll use later, these ecological disturbance cards. So the way you'll know it's those, it's not a plant and it's not an animal. Drought, deforestation, war, fires, that sort of thing. So we'll come back to those, but here's where you do find the cards. Remember, I was in checkpoint 3, and I looked at the resources for everyone to find these cards. So into our checkpoint, once you look at those cards, you're going to tell me how many producers are those cards. Remember, producers are things that can make their own food, so plants, and how many consumers, things that need to eat to get their food. Once you do that, then you'll go to question 3, and basically you'll tell me, is it this pile? We start with the consumer, and then we go to a producer. Is that how we make food chains? Or is it a producer that goes to a consumer? Whichever one it is, you're going to select a producer and consumer from your cards and either write their name under A, consumer, producer, if that's the way you think a food chain is set up. If it's not, you'll leave A blank and fill in B with a name of a producer from a card here and an A from a consumer in your card here. And then if you want the higher scores, you can read up here how to get the B and the A. The next thing you're going to do is, using those same cards, you're going to create a food chain that includes at least 4 organisms. I'll show you how to do that. If you have to do this at home, you can just draw it out on a piece of paper and take a picture and upload it, or you can click on this link and go to this sketch pad. So I'm going to pick some animals that are not in our answer sheet, so I'm not giving you the answers, but the way this thing works is it lets you draw and then export this as a picture. I would change this calligraphy pen to a pencil. Pencil has the easiest way to write, and I'm not going to be able to do it very neatly, I'm sure, but I can draw a food chain or food web on here now using this program. So I'm going to say, I'm going to go with acorns. That's going to be my producer, and that's going to go to a squirrel. You can see I'm not so neat here, and that's going to go to a coyote. So that is my simple little food chain. And how do I get that into my checkpoint so I get credit and I know I did this? Also, don't forget, make sure you put your name on this. I don't want one person doing it and sharing it with everyone. So I'm going to put my name. I have my food chain there. And to actually get this into Summit, I go over to this disk on the left. If you see where I'm hovering over there, it says export. When I hit the disk that says export, it gives me some options. And I can save it as whatever I want. I'm going to save it as a PNG. You can probably do others, but I've done this before and I know it works pretty easily. So I'm going to hit save as PNG. And when I do that, it may appear on my desktop. Yours might appear down here. We'll see. All right, we'll just let it go. All right, it did pop up down in the bottom left. So now I go back to my checkpoint. I just grab it from the bottom left. Notice I'm clicking and holding, and I let it go where I want it. Now my picture's there. So we'll kind of draw from home. I'm going to delete this because this is the real checkpoint, but that's how you'll do that box. All right, now you need to do this ecological disruptions box. It says you need an ecological force, which is on a card. Remember those cards? In checkpoint 3, before we clicked in it, our resources for everyone, we had ecological disturbance cards. When we clicked in there, and I scrolled down, I found some things like a drought, deforestation, war, fires, increasing human populations, and tourism. All of those ones I just read are ecological disturbances. So you're going to pick whichever one you want and write it here, so I know which one you picked. Then it says you're going to describe 4 ecosystem impacts from the card. You shouldn't have them memorized. If you pick the increase in human populations, you'll read all this and come up with 4 impacts. Now remember, impacts aren't necessarily negative. Some of these disruptions will have negative and positive impacts. Some may be just negative, and I don't think there are any that have just positive. But you're going to try to come up with 4. There are a few ecosystem impacts that might only have 3, so if you get 3 and you've really tried, you can turn them in with 3. But half the cards or so have 4. The next thing you're going to do is predict how these impacts would affect each trophic level. Remember, this is something we went over together. I'll probably throw another video up here, but you could also come to office hours for a workshop. But basically, you're going to tell me the producers, the plants, are affected by whatever your ecological force is, growing human population, because blah, 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 blah. The animals that eat those plants are affected now because, well, there's more producers or less producers based on whatever your card said. So that's going to impact the primary consumer. And that's going to also impact the secondary, and you're going to tell me how it impacts the tertiary as well. If you want the A level, you'll do that as well. And that's all you've got to do for this checkpoint.